I'll be the host of the Stop Yulin podcast, and I wanted to take the time to make a video to explain a little bit what I'm hoping to achieve with the Stop Yulin podcast, and obviously the YouTube channel that goes along with it. So I first heard about Yulin Dog Meat Festival only about 2 years ago. I would say like end of 2017, early 2018. And at first I thought it was something like fake news. I think a lot of people were it was hard to believe that this was actually happening. It was a thing. And then of course I had to research, and lo and behold, the internet is laced with images, all the more gruesome than the next. And the more I dug around, the more I discovered that it's not just an annual Yulin Dog Meat Festival, it's actually an everyday occurrence. And it's a slaughter, torturous slaughter of dogs and cats in China. And not just China, it's all across Asia, Southeast Asia. So we're talking about South Korea, we're talking about Cambodia, which is particularly vicious, the torture techniques in Cambodia. And Vietnam, Philippines, Thailand to a lesser degree because they've done a lot of work, thanks in large part to Soy Dog Foundation, which will be featured on the podcast. I'm interviewing John Daly actually today. He's in Thailand, and he co-founded Soy Dog back in 2003, and they've done amazing work, just reducing the overwhelming population of stray dogs in Thailand. For example, in Bangkok alone, there's like 650,000 stray dogs. And obviously that would fuel the dog meat trade. So I discovered about this dog meat trade, dog-cat meat trade, I'll be more specific because cats are also involved in many countries. And I was just like devastated. Like many of you, I couldn't believe this was allowed to happen. It was really hard to wrap my brain around it. I think it hit a particular chord in me because dogs are such amazing creatures. We all know them to be man's best friend. And the fact that they were tortured, like deliberate torture, is really what got to me. I would not be fighting this if it was just a question that they ate dogs as opposed to cows, but that's not the situation at all. In fact, China has a lot of farm factories. They have 5 times the amount of farm factories that are in the US. Obviously, that can be easily explained by the population size. But, they eat a lot of pork. I think China is one of the countries that eats the most pork in the world. So it's not a question of they're substituting dogs for regular meat or more conventional animals. It's really the torture. It's specific to dogs and cats to a lesser degree, but definitely dogs are targeted all across Southeast Asia. And I guess the goal of the podcast is to understand what the issue is and how best to, respond, like what's the resolution. And I don't know, I don't have the answer. Many people don't have the answers, but I'm hoping that through conversations with people that are involved in the dog meat trade, leaders of nonprofits that are doing a lot of work in China and Asia, that we can kind of get to understand a little bit more of the issue and what's causing this and what's behind the torture and how best to address it. So that's kind of the goal of the podcast. And obviously, I'm hoping, I have lofty aspirations for the podcast. I'm hoping we can make it generate buzz, if you will, and I'll need you guys to help me with this. I need you guys to subscribe, like, share, tweet galore, use all social media to share this podcast, the first episode of which will be released very soon as next week, most probably. And the first episode is actually going to feature Andy Abrahams Wilson, who's the founder, president of Open Eye Pictures, the film company behind Dog War. And it's fascinating, obviously, to hear the film. We've all been anticipating this film. It's going to be released, according to him, in early 2020. Like, it's not too far off, but they still need funding, and we're going to talk about that. The cost of production is tremendous. And also the premise of the film, like what they're hoping to achieve. So that's going to be really interesting. And so I'm going to release episodes. I can't promise you it's going to be weekly because of the, it's a very serious and kind of dark subject to tackle. Also, there's, a coordination of interviews with people. Like, often people are abroad, and it's hard to coordinate a time that's convenient for them to be on the podcast. But I can promise you it'll be at least monthly, a new episode every month. And I've already recorded about 4. And with tonight's episode, that'll be 5. Tonight's episode being with John Daly of Soy Dog. So I'm really looking forward to that. I can kind of confirm some guests at this point. Animal Hope and Wellness Foundation, which we all know from Mark Ching's. Mark Ching, who's a hero in my eyes, and many of you, he's put himself out there, he's put himself on the line, he's put his life at risk to help document what was going on, because a lot of it was hearsay, it was like rumors, and he really was instrumental in putting it on the map and saying, this is actually what's happening. So that's an organization that's very dear to me. It's at the top of my list, and I'm glad to say I'm going to have 2 official representatives of the Animal Hope and Wellness Foundation on the podcast separately. We're going to do separate shows. And I have Soy Dog, obviously, tonight. And I got to speak to Nama Lee. She was actually my first recorded episode, and I loved, speaking with her. A lot of you guys know her. She's a social media influencer. She's been relentless at trying to fight this dog-cat meat trade. She's originally from Thailand. She has a lot to say. She's so knowledgeable. So it was amazing to get to speak to her. And you guys can all hear about it when I release the episode. Other guests are Duo Project. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with Ellen. It won't be Andrea, because Andrea is very busy with her trips in China. But Ellen is instrumental, is a key representative of the organization Duo Project. So I'm going to get to speak with her, and I'm really looking forward to that. So all this to say, lofty goals for the podcast. We want to create buzz, we want to create momentum, we want this to be seen by as many people as possible all across the world, and it's possible with your help. I can't do it alone, just like we can't fight the dog-cat meat trade alone. We need to unite our efforts, and I will be so grateful to all you guys if you can share, like, subscribe, tweet, and help generate the buzz that it deserves and that these dogs need. Dogs and cats. I have 2 cats of my own, so I love cats, and it always is devastating when you see the images. Cats are also targeted. They're in slaughterhouses, and so we're going to also get someone from Plush Bears Shelter, because that's an organization that does a lot of good work in China, and it was started by Chinese, native Chinese, and so I'm going to look forward to that as well. So what I want to hope, why I want to create buzz is I want to obviously enlist future guests, more like prime light people. Someone mentioned Simon Cowell. Well, Simon Cowell's probably not going to be able to show in the beginning, but if we generate enough momentum, enough interest, then he might consider being on the show. Who knows? It's possible. And the more likes and higher the rankings are on YouTube, at one point I can probably monetize the channel, and I'm going to be 100% transparent. I want all the funds that are created by the channel eventually, if we get to that point, to go to nonprofits, and it's going to be an open discussion with everyone that's a subscriber on the channel. I'm going to get to, we're going to get to decide who's getting the funds this month, for example. I mean, so that's another ambition of mine. And obviously, it's more so the whole point of the podcast is really to shine a spotlight on the organizations that are doing legitimate work. They're doing the hard work, and they can't do it without your help. So they need public donations. They need us to help support them, because without donations, they can't do it. Obviously, it's like the story of any nonprofit. You can only do so much as your funding allows you. And so that is one of the main goals of the podcast, is to introduce the public to some organization they might not have heard of. I'm discovering a lot of new organizations that I never heard of, because through my guests, I always ask them who else should be on the podcast, and they've recommended quite a few people that I had never heard of, but they're key people doing the good work. So here's hoping it all comes together well, and it keeps growing, and that it keeps generating the buzz that these dogs deserve. Because I will tell you one thing, the only reason why I'm doing any of this, and the only reason why I became an animal activist actually 2 years ago, is because of Yulin. Because although I'm vegan and I love animals, all animals deserve to live a life of peace and freedom. I became a vegan long before it was popular, trendy, like decades ago. We're talking about like before it was ever a thing. So I've always been very sensitive to the cause of animals. But Yulin in particular, I feel like the torture aspect is really what's really puts it on a whole different level for me. Although fur industry is also very torturous. I mean, there's abuse, it's rampant, it's everywhere, and I'm all against it. And so eventually with the podcast, I'm hoping once we've covered the dog meat trade aspect very well, and it's been, sufficiently covered and addressed, then I can move on to introducing guests that work on ending the fur industry, all animal cruelty, farm practices that are appalling, like pigs being castrated without any anesthetics. It's horrible. So it's all horrible. So hopefully the Stop Yulin podcast can, progress and grow, and we can address all these issues of animal cruelty, because it all has to end. So thank you for listening, and stay tuned. Subscribe, like, share, tweet. I will be obviously promoting all the episodes of the podcast on my group on Facebook, Montreal Stop Yulin. I'll obviously share it with the public on Facebook and promote it as best as I can. And with your help, we can really make a difference for these dogs and cats. So thank you, and stay tuned.